Listener discretion is advised.
From the top.
Here we go. We can do this. We can do this.
You are listening to Wine and Crime.
Damn right you are.
Where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
And discuss their worst depressive episodes.
Yes. I'm Kenyon.
I'm Lucy.
I'm fine. I'm Amanda.
We're gonna be fine. I'm not in the depths of one right now, actually, I have to say.
A depressive episode?
Yeah.
You just had fun, though.
That's true. I mean,
got to see your
could
mama.
start at any moment.
Anytime.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You're a ticking time bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Could happen during this episode.
You're sinking down whether you know it or not.
Okay, good to know.
My goal tonight is to trigger a depressive episode in Kenya.
I mean, it could happen.
I'm in some kind of episode because Corey has COVID and I'm just quarantining with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Haven't left the house in 5 days.
Yep.
Yep.
Which is not like the worst thing for me personally, but
Mhm.
you know,
I have
it's a
another
lot.
friend with COVID right now who like already doesn't really leave their house, but they're like, it's so lonely. I just want the option.
I know,
Right,
I just
I
want
know.
the option of leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I know.
Get
I
your
feel like-
boosters. Those breakthrough infections are no joke.
I got my booster.
Good. Mine's scheduled for, as we're recording it, for next week.
Mm-hmm.
I am excited.
Can't
And my
get
flu
mine
shot.
for like at least 2 more weeks. Whatever.
Yep.
I took a test today and I'm still negative because I'm apparently like bionic. I don't know.
Yeah. Knock on wood. And your husband feels fine. He's just a chef who can't smell or taste.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Well,
I, mean,
you
I don't see the issue.
Statistics show that you shed less virus when you're vaccinated, even if you get an infection. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not as easy to pass from a vaccinated person to
And we're
a not
both
vaccinated
vaccinated
person.
because science works.
It's pretty
Anyway,
I don't
all
like
right,
what's the
science.
topic?
On that note, so earlier we were talking about daylight savings and how
Yeah.
it's dark early or in the winter and the days are short. And that is especially true in Scandinavia.
Apropos.
Mhm.
Yes.
Will you, Lucy, be going over what encompasses Scandinavia?
Sure will.
Thank God, because
Yeah.
I have Q's and I need those A's.
Yep. I got the A's, baby.
Okay.
So this is a very special fan pick brought to you by,
Say it.
okay,
Say it how you think it is and then read their description.
Lena Yerding Ude.
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 And now,
Okay, so they wrote, hello, confusing Danish Ds. The D in my middle name is a hard D, aka the kind of D you're used to.
Nice. Nice.
So it shouldn't be too bad.
we are used to that D.
Yeah. But I don't think they meant that as funny, but
I don't
it was
think so
really
either.
funny.
I think they meant that as funny. It's
But
too good.
But the D in my last name is a soft D. Never good.
Mm-mm.
And sounds more like the TH in the, especially the E
Oh,
at
Uthe.
the end. So it just sounds like the.
I love it.
The. In short, here is the closest to the actual pronunciation I could make it. Lena Gerding Uthe.
Uthe.
Lena Gerding Uthe.
Lena Gerding Uthe.
Yeah, that was
We're
good.
so good at this.
I
Yeah.
think we nailed it.
We
We're
definitely did.
basically Scandinavian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do know how to say one thing in Swedish. Jag pratar tyvärr inte svenska.
Where is the bathroom?
Which means I, unfortunately, do not speak Swedish.
That's if you're only gonna know one thing in Swedish, that's the important one to know.
You say it with perfect pronunciation.
It
So
did throw some
confident.
people because I did use it in Sweden and people were like,
How?
Don't speak it.
Are you sure?
Okay.
but that's
Love
all
it.
I got.
I love it.
All right. Well, Tusen talk for that, Lena. And let's get to our wine crime pairing, Amanda. What are we pairing with? Scandinavian Scandals.
Well, we
Which
are
is
not.
what Lena chose because we
Oh
didn't
yeah,
really
I don't know if you had said
specify
that
We
yet,
are
but it's fine. We're
not-
firing on
Doing great.
1/6 of a cylinder today. We're not drinking wine this week.
Schnapps?
No, oh no, I couldn't. I
No
really
aquavit. God.
I had a hard time visiting South Korea in one of our recent episodes.
Oh, yeah, you went for it.
Yes. So
Yes, you went
while
for
I
it.
I am visiting the Scandiland in this pairing, I have to be more careful
Yeah, of your body.
of my body.
Yeah.
So I have prepared a cocktail that I looked up by searching Scandinavian cocktails.
Oh.
And I just need you to buckle up for my pronunciation of this. Here we go. This is from a blog called Outside Oslo. And the cocktail I have made, and it does not look as pretty as it does on her website, is a blåbærsuppe inspired cocktail.
Blåbærsuppe.
Blåbærsuppe.
Blubber soup doesn't sound great.
No.
It's blueberry.
Yeah.
Oh, blåbærsuppe.
Blåbærsuppe or bilberry soup. Chilled in the summer or as a hot drink in colder weather is like a thing in
really is.
among Scandinavians, and this is a cocktail that is inspired by blåbærsuppe.
It's
Because-
like a syrup. It's like a thick blueberry
It is. The
syrup.
cocktail is
that you
not,
heat up.
but yeah, there's pictures of it on this
It's really
website.
good, actually.
It looks amazing. I mean, I want to
So-
pour it on pancakes is what I really want to do.
So are you saying that all of their like native cocktails, not all, but like a lot of their native cocktails are like day to night, can drink them cold or hot?
No, what I'm
Oh,
saying
okay.
is this is a cocktail inspired by specifically that blueberry syrup that can be chilled or hot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is like
Gotcha.
a staple of Scandinavian like sweet cuisine.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I did a slightly different take on this cocktail, but followed it almost exactly. I'll tell you the couple things that I changed, but this is what it called for. And it's fun because I opened this recipe and I was like, oh, I got fucking fresh blueberries in my imperfect foods box this week.
Nice. I
Perfection.
got mine today.
And my herb garden, we are just about to transfer it indoors, and I have like a fuck ton of rosemary. So I was like,
Nice.
those are two of the ingredients. So this calls for a half cup of blueberries. It says you can use frozen. I just use the fresh ones. A couple fresh rosemary leaves, 6 ounces of gin, 2 to 4 dashes of bitters, and a couple small sprigs of fresh rosemary. So what I did
Fuck
was
yeah.
I muddled a little bit of the rosemary and the blueberries, the fresh blueberries, and I didn't have bitters, but I decided to go slightly sweeter on this. So I muddled in 1 sugar cube to almost make like a simple syrup.
Mm-hmm.
And then I poured in my gin and I just topped it with a little bit of sparkling water that I made in the soda stream.
Well, fuck me, that sounds good.
Yeah, that
It's-
sounds fucking awesome.
Those are like all
really
of my
good.
favorite flavors.
It's really fucking good.
It's
I
like
mean,
a candle that would smell real good.
Yeah.
it does smell good. It's got like some herbal to it. You know, I'm
I'll
a
put
big
rosemary in anything.
fan. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, for external use only.
Yeah.
Well done. I am going
Oh,
to
yum.
wait to open this bottle of red wine that I brought upstairs with our new wine key, limited
Ooh,
edition.
How it's so cute.
Yeah, our new wine
Iridescent.
keys are so fucking cute. If you
I
haven't
just
seen
got
them, you
mine.
have to
Look.
check them out.
They're upstairs, so I'm not gonna go get it.
.com.
But
Yeah,
oh my god,
they're
They're
so cute.
iridescent. They're really hefty too. They got a good
Yeah.
weight.
Really good. I'm
They're
obsessed
like-
with it.
They're like raver rainbow unicorn cuteness. I'm obsessed with them.
And they're like
Basically,
rounded edges.
this.
Very
They're super
great.
nice.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna wait to open this red though because I was stupid and applied lotion, and now now would not be a good time.
No, it would
Okay.
not. But anyway,
So-
cheers.
Cheers!
Cheers.
So Lucy, what's our background and maybe psych for Scandinavian Scandals?
I got a little bit of psych actually.
Cute. Golden
So-
cute.
To clear up some cues for Amanda,
Thank
provide
God.
your
I need the
A's to your
A's.
cues. Scandinavia, historically called Scandia, is a subregion of Northern Europe generally held to consist of the two countries of the Scandinavian peninsula, which are Norway and Sweden. So they're that schlong that comes out, with the addition of Denmark, which is kind of like the balls. And
Right.
I've got a picture, a map on the drive, which will be on the blog to help you really visualize this schlong and the balls of Denmark.
Okay.
Some
But
authorities,
the balls of Denmark are on the body of the rest of Europe.
correct, hence they are the testicles.
Yeah, not
Yes.
dangling from the schlong
The
itself.
schlong
Correct.
dangles, the balls are hugged tight to mainland
Finland
Europe.
is dangling kind of from the schlong.
We'll get to Finland.
Okay.
Next sentence. Some authorities argue for the inclusion of Finland on geologic and economic grounds, and of Iceland and the Faroe and Åland Islands. Okay, so the A has the weird little circle on top of the
that makes
A.
it an O sound.
So is that
Åland?
Åland?
I think.
Åland?
The
I
Åland
think-
Islands.
The gin I'm drinking is from Finland. My friend lives in Finland, and the last time she was visiting, she
Oh my
brought me
gosh,
some gin. Hello,
fun.
Sylvia. I love you very
Finn.
much.
How
OMG,
Finn.
Finn.
Okay, so also the inclusion of those two islands on the grounds that their inhabitants speak North Germanic or Scandinavian languages related to those of Norway and Sweden. So there are arguments to include that whole bunch in Scandinavia. So for
Right.
the purposes of this, we're going to go with that.
Okay.
And to clarify, Scandinavia is not to be confused with Nordic countries, like the Nordic North. So the Nordics include Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and the Faroe and Åland Islands, plus the Greenland, the Bouvet Island, Jan Mayen, and Svalbard. Please don't ask me any questions. I don't know anything beyond that.
Jan Levinson Gould Island.
Exactly.
I've never heard of some of those places.
I'm probably from some of those places,
Yeah.
and I've never heard of some of those places.
I
Yeah.
believe that they're just like small territories, like kind of around that region.
and they're not part of Scandinavia?
And Svalbard is a
technically
real
not.
place and not just in the Golden Compass books.
Exactly. Svalbard is a real place, allegedly, according to Encyclopedia Britannica.
Allegedly.
We don't want to get sued by the anti-Svalbardists.
So what I'm saying is the North
I do. That sounds fun.
will
The flat Svalbardists.
we will get into the
Wake up,
political
sheeple.
we'll get into the political movements of Scandinavia in a little bit. Don't worry.
Yes. Okay, good.
So what I'm saying is the Nordic region is basically a more broad definition of Scandinavia. So they are different, but like
Kind of not.
just a
different,
little
though.
bit. Yeah.
They
kinda
have
not.
all the same shared core shit.
So Scandinavian or Nordic, this group of countries and territories feature a distinctness from the rest of continental Europe. Among their distinguishing characteristics are thinly populated northern regions, a relative wealth of fish resources, God bless, long life expectancies, great health care, and high levels of literacy and safety. So a little dose of your etymology, because you know I love etymology. The name Scandinavia has gone through many iterations, all thought to trace back to Proto-Germanic, possibly meaning something along the lines of dangerous island.
Love that.
Ooh, you're going to freeze to death, but you're going to have a crip about it.
Well, actually, this makes sense because like the Long Schlong peninsula is kind of
Or a petition to rename it the
Long
Long Schlong Peninsula.
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 The Long Schlong Peninsula.
Long Schlong Peninsula has lots of long reefs offshore. So actually, to early explorers and like, you know, I guess
tropical.
colonists,
Tough to land.
wouldn't call it tropical, but it is tough to steer a ship through to safely land on the shores in
Yeah.
many areas of Long Schlong Peninsula.
Peninsula.
The name could also be related to the Proto-Germanic word for shadow, suggesting, and this is my favorite theory, that the goddess of Skaue may have been once a personification of the geographical region of Scandinavia or associated with the underworld.
Ooh, I'm Googling the shit out of this.
Yep,
Love
goddess
this.
Skaue. Geographically, Scandinavia is fucking stunning. So as Amanda can attest, we've got the Norwegian fjords.
It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, your pictures were so breathtaking.
It's one of the best trips. I have to go back not as a 16-year-old.
Well,
Wasted
you went with,
on
like,
our
the-
youth.
The high school choir trip, right? Is that when you went?
Correct.
Nice.
And it was amazing. Tickets to Iceland are also real cheap right now. We had
I desperately want to go to Iceland, but I want to go to Iceland twice. I want to go.
you got to go when
in
there's
the
no
summer
sun and when there's all the sun.
winter. Right.
I will warn you about the currently cheap Icelandic tickets. My sister booked a whole tour for like less than $1,200 recently. Like a whole tour with flights and everything, and they just straight up canceled.
Well, because of
Like,
COVID.
yeah.
But,
Things are very, very
Yeah.
touch and go as far as
was
travel.
that
very
pre or
snip,
post-vaccine?
This was like 3 weeks ago, so
Oh,
post.
interesting. All right.
Yeah,
well,
we're
I wasn't
waiting
going to
till
go
it's
until
steady.
like mid-2022, but I want to do the same thing where you go.
Yeah.
Because we just recently had
do
so
a live
much
show.
solar storm activity where there were northern lights, like really intense northern light sightings all over the upper Midwest. And we kept trying to figure out times to drive and go see them, but the cloud cover was really shitty. So then I was like, fuck this, I'm going to Iceland, and started looking at tickets, and
Yeah.
the rest
I
is
wanna go
history.
too.
But I did not buy a ticket. But
It's very
I loved
high
it.
on my
Well,
list.
if you go buy, trip insurance
Yeah, get
or
travel
whatever.
insurance. Oh yeah, totally.
So we also have the Scandinavian mountains covering much of Norway and parts of Sweden, the flat low areas in Denmark, and the archipelagos of Finland, Norway, and Sweden.
Cool.
Finland and Sweden have a ton of lakes and what are called moraines because of their either current or prior glacier activity. And a moraine is it's basically a place that is or was covered in glaciers. I guess I just said
Cool.
that. So this results in spectacular land formations like massive boulders and big old cliffs, like
And
maybe
then
where
those
you wouldn't really
crazy
expect
clear
them.
waters.
Crazy clear waters and also like expanses of sandy silt. So just as far as like topography, it's a very unique region.
You know that photo that's like, it goes viral, I feel like every handful of months of, I think it's either like a young woman either just laying out on like a floaty, or maybe she's in a kayak or something on water that's so clear it looks like she's just floating in midair.
Yeah.
I feel like that's from one of those places.
Oh, I haven't seen that photo.
I'll
might
find
be
it.
because-
It pops up on Reddit fucking all the time.
Those waters, like up near the Arctic Circle, especially, they're so fucking crazy clear that it almost gives you vertigo to like look down into them.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
It's bizarre. So Scandinavia has more temperate climates towards the south, and even though it extends up into the Arctic Circle, it still has relatively mild weather because of its positioning relative to the Gulf Stream. So considering how far north it is, it's pretty warm, like on average, which I thought was cool.
Relative. Everything's relative.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Relative to the cold side of Mars.
the
pretty
Arctic
warm.
Circle, I mean,
Right.
it relatively gets to like 30 degrees below, but
Yeah.
still relatively
Minnesota.
on
Yeah.
average.
Literally
it's
every year
warmer.
that happens here.
It's
so.
warmer than it should be on that particular latitude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my next quote is from a National Geographic article, and in all honesty, it's not clear from whom this next quote came, but
The
it's
bell
either
tolls.
it's either the author of the article, Simon Worrell, or Michael Booth, author of The Almost Nearly Perfect People, behind the myth of the Scandinavian utopia.
Not a myth.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they have problems, but like, it's
Who
pretty big,
doesn't?
too.
They have their fair share of problems. I think the ambiguity was because of the formatting when whoever copied and pasted into the actual internet uploading system. So, by the way, National Geographic, take a look at that. Okay. I love this quote regardless. So it goes, quote, if you think of them, meaning the Scandinavian countries, as a family, the Norwegians have traditionally been the country cousins. And a further reading kind of makes me think that it's because they love being outside in nature.
Are they calling them like hicks? I'm trying
The
to equate
more
it to like
rural cousin.
Minnesota or American, you know.
There's lots of Scandinavian tropes
Sure.
and stereotypes that they lob at one another in a loving, competitive way.
Like Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Right.
And
They're
I will-
all trash.
We'll go through all of them. Don't worry. We'll go through all of them.
Fabulous.
But in terms of these tropes, the Norwegians are the cross-country skiing, loving, rural cousins.
Mm-hmm.
The Swedes have traditionally been the big brother, like kind of the head honchos a little bit. Then you have the Danes, who are considered a bit like the black sheep of the family, the younger brother who likes a drink or a toke on a spliff.
I have both of those in my lineage, and that tracks.
Then you've got the Finns, who are kind of like the mad aunt in the attic.
Totally.
That's the end of the quote, but I think it's because they binge drink a lot statistically, and they have one of the highest homicide rates in Western Europe.
Oh my
They're
gosh.
fucking bonkers.
How fun.
Fins are
nuts.
cray.
We need
And
to
I
do
mean that in
Finnish
the
crimes.
best way possible. They
Yeah.
eat like an absurd amount of candy, like not
What?
chocolate.
We'll get to the candy, honey.
Just fucking.
We'll get to the
candy.
candy.
And then
I need to know their
Finland is-
diabetes statistics in Finland. I need
Finland
it.
is
zero.
wild.
Of course.
Because
Because they also
excellent
ski
healthcare.
everywhere. And yeah.
And their language is nuts, like unrelated to anyone else's. They're also the closest to Russia, hence like the drinking. And so my grandma was half Norwegian, and her thing of like the different Scandinavians, which cracks Zach up, and I know I've said this on the podcast before, but she would say that the Swedes are dumb.
No,
The
no.
dumb
I mean,
Swedes.
as a Swede,
And she said that because like they spoke like the Swedish language and their accent is like a little bit slower than how Norwegians speak Norwegian. So she was like, well, the Swedes are dumb.
They can usually all understand each other, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
their languages are different, but they can
but quite similar.
communicate for the most part.
It's
For
like
Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. And all the little, like, territory. Because each of those countries also speaks
Its own
different
dialect,
languages.
yeah.
Right. So also in
I mean, within the country, they
Right.
speak different languages.
right. In the Midwest, you know, like on the East Coast and stuff, there were like Irish need not apply signs.
Mhm.
In the Midwest, like in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, there were Swedes need not
Swedes
apply.
need not apply. I've seen those. They're like the Irish.
yeah.
Yikes.
But like way historically, Sweden was the overlord
Mhm.
of Norway for a long time. So that there's like definitely some whatever. Also, my
There's
grandma
beef.
hated people who took milk in their coffee because that's what the dumb Swedes do.
What about almond milk?
I know.
I don't think they juiced almonds back then.
What if you have IBS?
I
And it's
know.
best if you avoid dairy.
Then you shouldn't live in Scandinavia, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Well, you can
I'm
live in
sure
Norway.
now they have
You
almond
can drink your
milk.
coffee black or with sugar. It's
Yeah.
great.
I don't know. I need
Yeah.
something. I can't.
And then she said that the Danes are shifty and you can't trust them.
Jesus Christ.
Absolutely not.
The Finns are weird. Iceland doesn't count, and Norway is perfect. So that was my grandmother's.
Checks
perspective.
out.
So much white on white crime happening. So
A lot.
much.
She was all loving. We also went to the Swedish American Museum like every weekend. So,
Mhm.
you know, she wasn't holding that big of a grudge.
right.
Okay, so up until the 1830s, these countries still thought of themselves as distinct regions. But in the 19th century, however, in the early 19th century, the Scandinavist movement arose.
Now we're talking. I love a movement.
Love a good movement, asserting the common heritage and cultural unity of the Scandinavian countries. The popular usage of the term in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway as a unifying concept became established in the 19th century through poems such as Hans Christian Andersen's I Am a Scandinavian of 1839. I read this poem. It's okay.
It's all right.
There's like an intro stanza, and then like, I am Norwegian, I am a Dane, I am Swedish. We're all great.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it was.
Sounds
Sounds
more
like
like
a Toby Keith song.
It's like a pep rally.
Sounds like a list,
It's a pep rally song.
not a poem.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I also have on the drive, which will be on the blog, an artist's rendition of all three of those countries coming together and doing like a fist bump in the middle.
Wow. A lot of mustache.
A lot of mustache. So these countries made a solid effort at a political unification at the end of the 19th century, but it fell apart because of distrust sowed during various war skirmishes in the area. So like Franco-Prussian, Holstein, Schleswig treaties, etc., blah, blah, blah. There was a whole mess of
A lot of little wars that you have straight never heard of.
never heard
Right.
of.
Yeah.
And probably
Happening.
never
It
will.
was a rat's nest of bullshit for like 60 or 80 years.
Yeah.
And they're just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
We're tired.
Frankly, the world wars really were just like, okay, we're going to hang out up here. Bye. You guys do your thing. Bye.
Mhm.
Well, there was occupation, but
Mhm.
Denmark got all the Jews out, which is amazing.
Mhm.
They literally like went through the phone book and were like, okay, your last name sounds Jewish. The Germans are
you
coming.
need anything? Yeah.
Get out.
We can't stop them. And so we're going to get you out in the next like 24 hours.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's an
But in
amazing
terms of
story.
like participation, like on the world stage, I think a lot of countries, especially in Europe, were like, okay, fuck those guys. They weren't putting any skin in the game for the most part.
Mm.
So there was a lot of shit in terms of the world wars, but just before the world wars, they were kind of infighting and then whatever.
Mhm.
That is a very stupid overview of what happened there, but that's the story of the Scandinavist movement.
Scandinavists.
I don't know how to pronounce that. Scandinavist.
Why do people say Scandinavian sometimes? My whole family, like, to be funny, like, you know, instead of saying like Target, you say Target Boutique, like that level of funny. My family always is like, oh, because we're Scandinavian.
Probably because you're from one of the countries of Scandinavian. Who cares which one it is?
Oh.
Scanda whoever.
Okay. I like that explanation.
That's
That
how I
makes
always took it.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so we have also heard of Forbes' list of world's happiest countries.
Mhm.
And their 2021 list begins as follows. Number 1, Finland. Number 2, Iceland. Number 3, Denmark. Number 4, Switzerland. Number 5, the Netherlands. Number 6, Sweden. Number 7, we're discounting is Germany. And number 8 is Norway. So like basically 1 through 8.
Socialism
Yeah.
makes democratic socialism makes people happier.
Funny how when you have resources and support,
Healthcare,
Higher
rights,
taxes that nobody
you know
really
that if
quality
you
of life is better.
get sick, you're not going to be plunged into generational poverty.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
And a side note, the U.S. is number 14.
That seems high.
Seems really high.
Yeah,
it's actually
that's
higher than in
generous.
previous years. So what's this all about? As of 2015, Denmark had the second highest consumption of antidepressants. But that's a little bit misleading because they also have excellent health care and
Right.
probably more awareness of
Well,
the
people can
need
actually
for
see-
medications.
Yeah.
Mhm.
People can actually get on the meds that they need.
Yep.
Mhm. And
So-
if you have limited sunlight, you need something to offset that.
1,000%.
They also have among the highest levels of alcohol consumption. They eat the most
What else
candy.
is there to do in eternal
They
darkness?
eat the most candy in the world, and they have among the highest consumption of pork products.
Oh, I
Interesting.
love St. Paul pork products so much.
So maybe
I work
like
here and all.
I moved to Denmark.
maybe like salty pork and sugary candy and alcohol sort of like offset each other. If that was your whole diet, I don't know.
Hikes in nature when it's like cold out and you can bundle up.
Lots of
That
cross
sounds
country
fucking
skiing.
Sign me the fuck up. Salty meats, lots of candy.
Candy and
They
just
also-
like trudging.
They also like love to be alone. They love their cozy little
Hygge.
hygge huts.
Hey,
What?
it's spelled Hygge, so
Yeah.
people call it Heige.
Oh, it's hygge.
It's
For
pronounced-
anyone
I know,
who doesn't
that's
know,
the
it's hygge. God.
Fires. Didn't they make that fire crackling thing? There is a show that's on, I think, a Norwegian TV channel.
It's on Netflix too.
And
it's
now
just a
it's on-
fireplace.
Now it's on Netflix, but
The
there was
Yule log.
a show that started in Norway on Norwegian TV, I'm pretty sure, of watching
Just
a
a crackling
fireplace.
fire. Yeah.
And then they like changed it and people like voted on the different types of wood that they wanted to be featured in the fireplace because they all burn slightly differently. Yeah.
I
love
fucking
it.
love that so much.
I saw that on PBS a long time ago because it was pre-Netflix, and like there was every once in a while somewhat like phantom legs would come stoke the fire. And we'd
they
all
do a
cheer.
Yule log around
Yeah,
Christmas
It's
every
the
year.
best.
It's so
I think
nice.
there's also like a Finnish word for drinking alone at home in your underpants.
Probably.
There's like a
Yeah.
word for that.
Well, hugabooskers is the word for your home pants, your comfy pants, hugabooskers.
I love that.
Oh my God, I love
too
that.
good.
But there
if I were
is another.
ever to be dragged onto a softball team,
You'd
that
be
would be the
Hoogaboosters.
Basically,
I
the
support
is
this.
this over with yet?
Yeah.
Team.
can I put on my Hooga boosters yet?
There's
Oh my
definitely a
God.
word
Cute, I
for
love
drinking
that.
at home in your comfy clothes, though.
Yeah. That was like a meme that went around a few years ago.
But they also like just don't give a shit about social niceties the way that we do. Like that's something that definitely transferred over to like Minnesotanism. Like
Yeah.
we will say hi and smile. They won't
we'll
even
be-
do that.
No.
They won't make eye contact. They don't give a shit. It's like too cold to just like you just move on.
Gotta look
If
down.
you're a stranger, I'm not
get
going
to your fire.
hurt you, but
Yeah.
I'm also not going to engage with you at all.
I'm not going to give you a single joule of my energy.
Right. Right. It's
Mentally,
precious.
emotionally, physically, nothing.
Yep.
Which I love. I'm into it. Okay, so last but not least, a little bit about the economy. The social and economic Nordic model doesn't hurt their happiness level either. And this is a quote from Wikipedia because I don't know what most of this means.
Great.
The Nordic model of welfare is distinguished from other types of welfare states by its emphasis on maximizing labor force participation, promoting gender equality, egalitarian and extensive benefit levels, the large magnitude of income redistribution, and liberal use of expansionary fiscal policy. This includes a comprehensive welfare state and multi-level collective bargaining based on the economic foundations of social corporatism, with a high percentage of the workforce unionized and a sizable percentage of the population employed by the public sector. So roughly 30% of the workforce are in such areas as healthcare, education, and government.
Dang.
Although it was developed in the 1930s under the leadership of Social Democrats, the Nordic model began to gain attention after World War II. The latter half of the 20th century saw some decline in some areas, quote, including increased deregulation and the expanding privatization of public services as part of a move toward free market capitalism and the private sector within the neoliberal paradigm. So hopefully this makes sense to somebody out there, but basically what I'm taking this as, they have a lot of social services, they have high taxes, but that also just benefits healthcare.
Everyone. Yeah.
It benefits
Everyone.
people and not just the military.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they also are
There's
like
less
very
corruption.
pro union. They're getting more into privatization, but historically, but there's been not that much of that. And so just economically, there was something that I read called the bumblebee economics, where like if you're thinking of like the physics of a literal bumblebee,
Like
they're too heavy to, and their wings are too small. Like realistically, they shouldn't be able to fly, but they can, obviously. So that's what there's a term called bumblebee economics that relates to this Nordic paradigm.
Or it's like,
the
this
Nordic
shouldn't
model.
work so well, but it really
work
does.
so well, but it super does.
Well, and also, like,
maybe it's only a matter of time till it fails, but at the same time, it's worked for several generations of
I'd be
people
curious
who live in this
about
area,
the background of who wrote that article, though, because whether like the structure of an economic system and whether or not it should or shouldn't work, I feel like
And how do you define whether it
or
works?
whether it's working? I feel like there's a lot open to
The bumblebee
subjectivity.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not just one article. That's like I
whole
Googled
theory.
it. It's like,
Like a
it's a
theory.
whole theory. Yeah.
Interesting.
There's also like Norway, I think in the 70s, they discovered like a shit ton of oil in the territorial waters off of Norway.
Load of oil. They have more oil than they do in the Middle East.
Right. So before the 70s, Norway was like the country bumpkin poorer.
right. And then it had a
version of
literal oil
Sweden.
boom. Yeah.
And then they discovered this oil in their waters. And so they have like a shit ton of money.
Mhm.
But for other countries that have a shit ton of money, there's like the resource curse. So either they're like invaded by
right.
us
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
or and like fucked up, hello, Iraq. But or it's like Saudi Arabia or other countries in the Middle East where like they're, you know, the people are very coddled. The population like has a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of democratic rights because the government controls all the money and
The
basically
government's only
controls them.
they're almost exploiting themselves in
Right.
places like that.
So it's like Norway's found like a sweet spot.
Right. Which is extremely rare for countries
Still,
with
it's
like
still kind of early to tell if we want to call it a sweet spot, but sweeter than, for example, Saudi Arabia so far.
And one
So-
other fun fact, they leave their babies, even when it gets really cold, in the
Oh, yeah.
strollers outside.
I have
to
told
just
you that
chill.
multiple times.
I know.
It's
I'm-
nuts. When we were shopping in Bergen, it's like all these little cute little row shops like on fucking canals and shit. So they're and these shops are tiny. And so the moms would come out to do their shopping and the strollers with the children in them are just like bundled up in a row on the sidewalk in front of the shop, and they all just go into the shop and just leave their kids out on the sidewalk. And it's like totally fucking normal.
Nobody steals the babies?
No, nobody, because nobody's doing that shit.
And at daycares and stuff, there's like a theory or a, you know, ideology that it's good for kids to be super bundled up so they're not cold.
But outside.
But outside. And so they'll have like nap time outside even in the winter, but they're just like hella bundled. And it's good for the health.
Hella bundled.
Their king in Norway, like there's a very beautiful castle like in Oslo where the king literally stays like with the royal family or whatever, and he flies a specific flag to let people know he's home.
Yeah.
Like there's no privacy. Like they have a little bit of like
Can they come knock on the door?
I mean, there's like security guards, but they're police and like nobody carries guns. Like we went to this castle and we didn't like go in, but it's the security guards are out. It's like two guys at the gate, the gate which is open, and then like a very specific flag. And we're with like a tour guide, and the tour guide's like, "Oh, the king's home." Like that just lets you know he's here. It's like no one feels like that would not be a thing at the White House.
No.
Like they're the level of just like extremism
Safety.
and feeling like targeted is not on. It's not like
They're
here
not
in the
doing
States.
active shooter drills. Let me tell
No,
you.
it's
Well,
it was so bizarre.
Since you were in Norway, and also since at least two of these articles that I cited were written, there has been a lot more extremist activity in these countries.
Absolutely.
So these
It has
anecdotes
increased.
are not necessarily applicable now, but
Yeah. The
I
last
mean,
time
I
I
think
was in
it's
Norway, I
probably-
was 10.
Yeah, it's probably
it's
safe
different.
to assume in terms of like child raising and some of those other more like small town cultural things probably haven't changed a ton. But
no,
yes,
but like
I'm
national
sure there have been
security
shifts.
wise,
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
shooter drills, like that Anders, whatever the fuck his fucking stupid fucking name was.
Yeah.
Who shot up that whole island.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely, I mean, things, the globalization of violence is still happening.
Yeah.
But it's not like it is here.
Exactly.
And all this to be said, I think their life quality is much better over there. But there are issues. There's a lot of issues around racism because it was traditionally such a homogenous society. And now there are like more and more refugees and just more like ethnic diversity and linguistic diversity. And
It's globalization.
that causes some people to freak out and have backlash.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Absolutely.
you know,
And
nowhere's
bigotry
perfect.
exists everywhere.
Oh,
But-
yeah. Nowhere is safe from that kind of shit.
But that said, I really want to go to Scandinavia now, if only for the sweaters, because that sounds
Great
really fucking
sweaters.
cozy.
Gorgeous sweaters, very expensive, but worth it. We
Worth
should
it.
go.
Yeah.
Well,
next
if
live
you-
show.
if you go and get lucky like me, you can put 1 or 2 kroner in a slot machine at a gas station on the way to a fjord and then win like $200 and get a sweater with that.
That's
Nice.
amazing. Well done.
Dang.
They don't
All right.
card at the gas station slot machine.
Are we ready for my case? It's a doozy.
I mean,
don't know.
never.
Is this the fan pick?
This
No,
is the fan
I have
pick.
the.
Oh, God.
No,
I also have a fan pick for this episode.
I can't remember anything. I can
Mine
barely, I didn't
specifically
remember
on
to
the
do
drive.
the intro.
Says fan pick. So
Oh, well, then I just fucking found this. I don't even know.
maybe
Yeah.
they picked
Amanda
both.
has the fan pick.
Who knows?
I don't
Jesus.
remember.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So,
And I did it this time.
good job. All right. Sture Bergvall, fucking nailed it, I think, was born in 1950 in Falun, Sweden. He grew up in the small village of Korsnäs.
Okay.
Of course
Whatever.
she did.
Of course he did. And was one of 7 siblings. But as a child and teenager, Sture struggled to fit in with his peers. He would later describe himself as a, quote, creative and ambitious child, which is a
Terrifying.
very optimistic way of describing himself. And he had dreams of one day becoming a writer or actor. He was often at odds, though, with his strict Pentecostal family. And this tension increased when Sture realized that he was gay around age 14. And just like a side note about Pentecostalism, which swept the U.S. in like the turn of the 20th century. And there was a lot of like traveling preachers and speaking in tongues
The
and
snakes.
like snakes and big tents and whatever. And then just imagine that, but in like rural Sweden.
Scarier.
It's that, but even scarier and more
Somehow.
isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Colder.
Midsummer.
Love it. Big fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge.
Okay.
So, knowing that his sexuality would not be accepted by his family, he hid this fact from his parents and coped with the stress of hiding his secret through escapism. And that it was namely by experimenting with drugs like amphetamines.
Oh, good.
Like you do.
Like you do. Aquavit wasn't enough for Sture.
Ugh.
So around the age of 19, he began getting into criminal trouble. He was accused, and I just want to preface and clarify that, like, his sexuality
Is the actual only reason why he became a criminal.
No.
Let me make this very
right
clear.
out of my mouth. We're taking a hard ideological turn on this
Yep.
show.
Yep. Switching it
For
up.
He
4
was
and
a
a half
homicidal gay.
God.
Homosexuality does statistically make you a murderer. It's not me, it's the facts.
Oh my fucking God. That is sarcasm.
Somebody out there is not going to realize
I
I'm
know.
fucking kidding.
I know.
Someone's going to tune in at just that minute and be like, Amanda's
Oh my
turned.
God. Okay.
Fuck
No.
this shit.
For the literalists out there, his sexuality had nothing to do with his crimes. It was just the fact that his family was very repressive, and that couldn't have helped his mental health. And that may have contributed to...
May have
contributed. Maybe
forensic psychologists here.
there are lots of fucking straight sociopaths out there, too. So
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, psychological distress and trauma absolutely can compound a lot of shit. It's
Right.
not uncommon.
So at 19, he was accused of molesting multiple adolescent boys and of attempting to stab a former lover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Despite his creative ambitions as a child, he never really made much of his life and continued to be periodically arrested throughout the years for various assault and drug charges. Then in 1990, he robbed a local bank while dressed in a Santa Claus costume,
Yes.
which is...
You've covered this case before.
I had a freak out that I had, but no, that was a different person in
It's
a
a
Santa
different
Claus.
Santa.
Different Santa.
That was
and-
during SantaCon
Yeah,
in the U.S.
right.
Yeah.
So I thought that person was a genius, but turns out maybe they read about this dude. Or
The
maybe
person
it's
was still a genius, though.
neither here nor there.
Whoever they
There's
are,
like
because they
4
were never
criminal
caught.
Santas that we've covered on this
I
show.
know. That's
I
like
love
the
them.
common thread.
Yep.
Criminal Santa.
Criminal Santas. We're changing the name of this show.
Criminal Santas and wine.
Mm-hmm. Done.
So
200 episodes.
so Stura wasn't so lucky. He should have waited for SantaCon because he was caught. He was convicted of armed robbery and confined to an institution for the criminally insane.
At the North Pole.
Oh,
They made him an
Surrounded
He
by
made
elves.
wooden toys for little girls and boys.
But he wanted to be a dentist.
oh
a
my
dancer.
God. Oh.
A dancing
I
dentist.
just want to dance.
So,
It's like a weird Footloose meets the Island
Yeah.
of Misfit Toys mashup.
The elves weren't allowed to listen to rock music.
John Lithgow is inexplicably there.
oh my God, that's
I'd watch
ticking
this
all
movie.
my boxes.
I would watch this movie.
Right?
Hallmark
1000%.
movie.
Footloose meets
It's got
North
It's
Pole.
got Kevin Bacon. It's got true
Kevin
crime.
James
Eh,
as Santa.
all the Kevins. Kevin
Every
Tim
Allen.
Kevin.
Tim Allen as Santa.
Tim Allen's fucking terrible, but
Yeah.
fuck
But
it.
who is
Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus holds
Which I
up. I'm
made
sorry.
my mother watch and Bill watch this past Christmas.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll ever forgive me for it.
Oh,
I was
it's
like,
a
I
classic.
love this
it.
movie.
I have
It's so
I've-
good.
the Cocoa machine.
yeah.
Mhm.
Need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need it. Anyway, this is now Santa Claus and Crime and Wine podcast.
And also the actor who always plays the stepdad. Always.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
With the
Mhm.
sweaters.
He's always
90s
the
guy.
stepdad.
Yeah.
God, I need to look up. I'm going on the IMDb. The
Yeah.
Santa Claus. Go ahead. Continue.
So,
Go ahead.
so, institution for the criminally insane.
North Pole.
At the North Pole. Around this time, he began going by a different name, Thomas Quick. And Quick had been his mother's maiden name, and he just came up with Thomas.
He was a creative and ambitious child.
Yeah. And in the regular therapy sessions that were part of his sentence, Quick began disclosing some shocking things. He told his therapist that the armed robbery and various assault charges that were on his record had been far from the extent of his crimes. In fact, he claimed to have been responsible for one of Sweden's most notorious unsolved mysteries, the disappearance of an 11-year-old boy named Johan Asplund back in 1980.
Why are you telling your therapist this?
Well, he's already in an institution.
Oh, that's true.
During a series of therapy sessions, Quick said that he had lured Johan into a car outside
Judge
of...
Reinhold.
Yes.
That's the name.
That's his name.
That's
His
the
name
stepdad
is
name.
Judge?
Yes,
Yes.
and his IMDb photo is like him in a 10-gallon hat. It's unreal. I'm sending it to the chat.
But he's
What?
always the stepdad.
Is he still working?
I mean,
Of course.
this hat is still working. Tell you what.
Still working on me.
Still working for me, baby.
Judge Reinhold.
It's the hard D, the kind you're
Fucking
used
right.
to.
Known for Beverly Hills Cop, Fast Times at
Not the
Ridgemont High.
softie.
He's the guy who like came in the bathroom
Oh, yeah.
with the
Totally.
bathing suit scene.
Oh, yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop 2 and the Santa Claus. He's known for 4 things.
Oh, he's known for the Santa.
Listen,
I knew him for the Santa
Yeah,
Claus.
I mean, that character was so fucking annoying.
some of his
I
most
loved
recent
it.
work is 4 Christmases and a Wedding TV movie 2017.
Hey,
And
He's been
he also-
pigeonholed in the Christmas movie.
He also played Harry in Bad Grandmas. So he's thriving.
Okay. Good
He
for
was
you,
in
Judge.
Broken, a musical. I'm looking into that.
Broken.
Back to this
Okay.
case, because there's a lot to cover.
Okay.
I'll be
So-
over here reading about Judge Reinhold. You can carry on as
Do what you
as
gotta do
usual.
for your mental health as I
Yep.
describe this horrific crime.
Always.
So Quick said that he lured 11-year-old Johan into a car outside of his school, took him to a secluded area, and raped him. And again, remember when he was growing up, he had assaulted multiple adolescent boys.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that he then panicked about what
look
to
at
do.
Amanda's text right now.
I'll add it to the drive.
It's really bad timing.
Yeah, it's terrible timing, but I
Discuss
didn't
this
know what was
later.
coming next.
You knew before you sent this picture of Judge Reinhold
Well, I didn't know the
in a
details.
10-gallon hat.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
So, claimed that he panicked about what to do with the boy, strangled him, dismembered him, and buried his body parts in the woods.
Our cases are so similar.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. Trust me. We'll get to it.
Did you guys do the same thing again?
Not even close,
No.
but there are, I don't know, something in the Baltic, something in the water.
Oh, it's the long
So,
reef.
His
Along the
therapist,
schlong.
his therapist contacted police, and Quick repeated his story in interviews with them. So now teams of investigators were sent to search the locations described by him, but Johan's remains were never found. And this was, again, one of the most high-profile cases ever in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Johan.
Johan's parents were baffled to learn of Quick's confession. They'd always strongly believed that their son had been murdered by a jealous ex of his mother
Oh.
as revenge for her leaving the relationship. So they always
Ooh.
thought they had someone in mind.
They thought
that
it was
Right.
Judge Reinhold,
They thought it was Judge Reinhold,
the
essentially.
ex of his
The
mother's ex.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
Not so
So-
much.
As prosecutors scrambled to put together a case against Quick based on his statements to police, he began confessing to yet more murders.
Is he full of shit?
This gave me chills.
Over the course of several years of meetings with his therapist, Quick confessed to more than 30 murders.
No.
I'm suspicious of Quick.
These murders covered a large range, both geographically and chronologically. They had been committed in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland. I wanted to get the hat trick.
Scandinavia.
Scandinavia. And dated from
The
1960.
hat trick.
I wanted to get the
Finland.
Reinhold.
I need the Reinhold. Secure the Reinhold. The 10-gallon hat trick.
You are a queen of sports.
And dated from 1964 when he was just 14 to 1991 when he was institutionalized. So he went into grisly detail in these sessions, describing how he had raped and dismembered multiple victims and even on occasions eaten portions of their remains.
Ugh. Was he able to lead investigators to any of the remains?
Just that one, and they
We-
didn't find any.
We will get to it.
Okay.
So it seemed that Quick was the most prolific and brutal serial killer in Sweden's history.
Fuck. This is like some Green River Killer shit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Or even some
Israel Keys.
Israel Keys
Mhm.
shit, because he really didn't have much of an MO necessarily,
Right.
like
That's
for
true.
picking victims. And
Mhm.
also, like, it's possible that Israel Keys started really young. Like, it's
Mhm.
possible that he started at like 15.
Mhm.
So scary.
So the Swedish press began referring to him as our Hannibal.
Oh.
Oh.
Between
As far as pet names go, not great.
No, I'd prefer Judge.
Yeah. Old 10-gallon Judge.
Between 1994 and 2001, Quick was convicted of 8 of the murders that he confessed to.
Wow.
Just based on the confession it's alone?
Well, you know, it takes more than just a confession to convict.
Right.
But yeah, and he confessed to 30. He was convicted for 8.
Okay.
The earliest crime he confessed to was the 1964 murder of a teenage boy named Thomas Blomgren, I don't know, in the town of Växjö, which fell outside of Sweden's 25-year statute of limitations. But the case was considered by many to be finally closed after the confession. So I can't believe that
there's a statute of limitations on murder?
I don't know if there still is, but at this time there was.
That's
In
fucking
Sweden?
wild.
Yeah.
Well, no, I know not here, but that's bonkers.
Right. Yeah, that surprised me too. I don't know if there still is. This was in the early 2000s.
I'm Googling this. Judge Reinhold, statute of limitations on murder in Sweden.
Your Google search history is so manic.
It's all, and I never clear it, ever. My cookies are like, the
Instagram
fuck?
is like, I don't even know what to pitch to this bitch.
The last thing I had open.
Meds. Talk space. A weighted blanket.
I have local eclectic, David Sedaris, Des Moines, and why do goats have weird eyes?
Oh my God. Mine are definitely not that fun. How do I find?
Sweden's government has proposed abolishing. Okay, wait. This is as of 2009, though. All right. I don't know. It's unclear. And all of these articles are really old.
No way to know.
Yeah,
you keep
mine
talking.
are boring. Okay.
But this was in like 2001, 2002
They
is what
removed
she
it.
was saying.
In 2010.
Okay. Good to
So
know.
there is no longer a statute of limitations in Sweden
Good.
for murder.
So, somewhat strangely for a serial killer, like we just said, the murders that Quick was convicted of showed no obvious patterns or similarities. He killed both children and adults, raped both men and women, and used a wide variety of weapons and didn't favor any particular geographic location, although, they were all in Scandinavia.
Right.
A journalist named Hannes Rostam began to feel that something was not adding up.
All right.
He was able to gain access to Quick's therapy notes, and he meticulously went through all 50,000 pages of them,
Nope.
in addition to court documents and police interviews that he had done.
Too much work.
Even though he had his...
I'm
That's
out.
why you
Nope.
are a comedy podcaster
Yep.
and not a journalist.
I do a segment, not an episode. And
No.
that is my sweet spot. Good night and good luck.
Between nothing and minimal, that's my sweet spot.
There she is.
Between what did I have to do today and oh shit, we're recording.
I'm recording in an hour. Oh, God. I just woke up. Oh, shit. We did the same case.
So
I know my niche.
in addition,
I'm proud.
so even though he had his initial suspicions, he still came away shocked that in all that reading, he found no description of any actual physical evidence in these cases that Quick was convicted for.
Yeah.
No mention of DNA, fingerprints, murder weapons, eyewitnesses, nothing.
It was just his confession then.
So Rostam decided to interview Quick himself. Upon someone showing doubt in his stories, it didn't take long for Quick to break down and admit to having made up all of the confessions.
Oh, and
knew
all
it.
these
I fucking knew it.
families who thought, well, then maybe it was Judge Reinhold.
It probably
yeah,
was.
in that first case for Johan, it probably was.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then this guy, this asshole doing a false confession let the actual killer off the hook, which is true for all of these cases.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's just stirring the pot. He's just bored.
Mm-hmm. So Rostam, the journalist, learned in this interview that Quick was regularly allowed to leave the institution on day release and would spend his free time at the local library reading up on unsolved crimes that he could then, like, construct a confession around.
That's
And he
so
could, like,
sick.
line up timelines, too.
Yeah.
To be careful he didn't confess to anything that he was already incarcerated for.
That's so sick.
It was through this research that he uncovered details that he could use to make his confessions seem more credible. But everything that he said was either made up or was in public knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, in the press.
Judge
and, like,
Reinhold would never do this.
Right?
That hat, though, holds a lot of secrets.
Although, as Rostam learned from reading through Quick's therapy notes and police interviews, he often got many more details wrong than he got right.
Red flag, you might say.
And the police just
Still
overlooked
did it. No.
Well, and I mean, we
they
see
just
this.
they just want a conclusion.
They want a nice.
They want-
They want to put a bow on it.
Exactly.
Call it a
That
day.
is an issue in policing fucking everywhere.
Yep. So, for example, when he confessed to the 1988 murder of a 9-year-old Norwegian girl named Therese Johannessen, he had initially said that she had been blonde and lived in a rural village, which sounds like
The
his
rural
own personal fantasy.
Right.
Ew.
But also
When in fact,
everywhere.
she had dark brown hair and had lived in an apartment complex in a dense city.
And they were like, yep, he did it.
Yep.
We got our guy.
So fucking gross.
Nailed it.
Quick, however, was adept at reading people's responses in these interviews. And so when his therapist or the police didn't seem excited by a detail that he had included
He'd
because it
change
was
course.
fucking wrong, he would change tack and be like, oh, no,
Son
wait,
of
I'm
a
sorry, I'm
bitch.
getting confused. It was...
Because I've murdered so many people, I
Yeah.
mixed this up. You fucker.
Yep.
Ew.
What a fucker.
Yep.
Ugh.
So Rostam had noticed when reading through the police interviews that they often had asked him leading questions and continued to press him if he answered incorrectly at first. So
They
they gave him
wanted their
second
answer.
chances to get the right answer. And then if he accidentally hit upon the right answer first, they wouldn't press him.
Well, and shit, it's a lot easier to close 8 to 30 murders with one guy saying that he did it than to actually, I don't know, put in the work to
They
investigate
just want
each
that.
individual
They
crime.
just want those clearances. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he did have an actual rap sheet. So like he did actually commit some crimes that lined up with some of these crimes.
It's not that it's out of the realm of
Right.
possibility,
But yeah, no, a confession shouldn't be enough. And I just said that because Lucy caught on too quickly.
She always does. It's the worst. It's the worst.
So those initial incorrect first answers would then be edited out of the transcripts that were
Stop.
presented as evidence in court.
Okay,
They
well,
would
the
do
officers
like
who
a
did
dot,
that
dot, dot. You know, they
should
do like
be
an
fucking
ellipsis and like
prosecuted.
skip to the good part.
That is tampering with fucking evidence.
Well, they're not going to provide the whole transcript. So they're like, well, you know, forget this part. It's too confusing. This is the part where he confesses.
No, fuck that.
If it's withheld from the transcript, it's technically not evidence because it wasn't submitted into evidence.
I know, but it
Right.
should be considered tampering with evidence.
in
because that's
reality, it's
fucked up.
evidence.
Well,
Yeah.
But technically, it's not. That's
I
what's
feel
fucked up.
like a defense team would catch that.
Right.
But because this guy is mentally unwell and he's confessing, he doesn't have a defense team defending him.
Right. They're
Or
just
that's at
trying
least
to
looking out for
They're
this
trying to
shit.
like mitigate the
Right.
severity of consequences. They're not trying to get him off.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ugh.
So, in the case of, I don't know if it's Teresa or Therese Johannessen, it was later discovered that evidence had been presented at Quick's trial before proper forensic testing had been performed on it. Because they just were like, well, he confessed, so it's definitely, they like didn't even bother testing it against him. After Quick had confessed to murdering Teresa or Therese, investigators had combed the area where he claimed to have buried her body. They were unable to find anything except for some, quote, bone fragments, which were presented in court as evidence, but again, before they had been forensically tested.
It could have been anything.
Right.
These fragments were later determined to have actually been composed of wood and glue and were not in fact, bone, let alone human bone.
You gotta be fucking kidding
Let
me.
alone her bones.
Wood and glue?
Yeah.
It's basically what Lucy hid amid her kitchen construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just plastic bones from the hardware store.
They said they said it was bone fragments or little pieces. I'm sure they thought it was bone fragments.
But maybe don't say
but
it
you gotta test
till you
it.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Let's
such
just
And
make
even
sure-
if it is bone fragments, you don't know if it's your victims. Like, look
Right.
at the Mara Murray stuff. It just came
Yeah.
out that the remains that were found near where she disappeared
And
are
everyone
not
thought this was a
hers.
huge lead. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
It's just, you got to be careful because there's so many
You
people
just don't know.
who are waiting on those answers. And, you don't want to like fuck with everybody's hope when we don't know yet what the situation is.
Yeah, you have to be extremely critical.
Mm-hmm.
That's really irresponsible.
Mm-hmm. As Swedish press coverage began to shift gears from describing Quick as a vicious serial killer to more skeptical examinations of his stories, the confessions fell apart at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
In the
they
case
would.
of the 1964 murder, which had fallen outside of the statute of limitations, Quick was found to have actually had an airtight alibi, so there was no possible way
Couldn't have been him. Yeah.
that he had done it. On the day of the murder, he had been attending his own confirmation at church.
Sir.
At the Pentecostal church in his village, which was over 300 miles from the town where Thomas Blomgren was murdered, and also, like, Thomas Quick was, like, 14.
His own confirmation.
Right.
His
He
own
was
confirmation.
definitely there.
There's
He was-
photos of him
Yeah.
getting a wafer put in his mouth. Well, that's first convenient, but still.
Yeah,
Probably
something.
some snake thing.
Something. I don't know what they do. Yeah. There are multiple photos of Quick at his confirmation and numerous eyewitnesses who attended the event.
Good Lord.
Another of Quick's confessions to the murder of 2 African refugees who had seemingly disappeared without a trace was proven false when the 2 were eventually found alive and well.
Who initially
That's a
investigated
giveaway.
this shit?
I mean, they don't have a very high murder rate, so I feel like they might not have enough, like, experience.
But
This is
double
a
checking
mess.
to make sure that the alleged
Someone's
victim
alive.
was dead would be
Well,
like step
It's
one.
hard when it's a disappearance and you don't have a body, you know? Like a lot of people are, disappear and you don't have a body, but they're presumed dead. And then in this case, like, I think that these 2 guys maybe didn't want to be found.
Well, yeah, if they were maybe undocumented or something,
Right.
I'm sure they'd be more difficult to find. But that's one example of many where these investigators fell real short.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh-huh.
not defending them, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So in 2008, Quick appeared on television with the journalist Hannes Rostam and denied having any part in the 8 murders that he had been convicted of, nor the numerous others that he had confessed to. Because the only evidence supporting the murder convictions had been his own confessions, Quick was able to successfully get all of them overturned on appeal, a process which took about 5 years. In the States, I feel like that wouldn't even be a given.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
after you are convicted, you can't, I don't think you can just rescind your confession and get an appeal.
No.
You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, I
it
don't
would be a
think so.
case-by-case thing, but I don't think that all of those would be overturned in the
I don't
U.S.
think so either.
In 2012, as he awaited the final verdicts of his appeals, he agreed to an interview with the British journalist Elizabeth Day. When Day asked him why he had chosen to concoct the murder confessions, he responded, quote, "It was about belonging to something."
Oh my God. Join a knitting club.
I was a very lonely person when it all started. I was in a place with violent criminals, and you were a violent criminal. You literally, like, molested multiple people and did an armed robbery. Like, for surezies, you did those things. So, like,
Right.
you were supposed to be there. And I noticed that the worse or more violent or serious the crime, the more interest someone got from the psychiatric personnel.
Oh my God. He wanted fucking attention.
Yeah. I also wanted to belong to that group, to be an interesting person in here.
Oh my God. Just get
Jesus.
Instagram, okay?
What a fucking sociopath or a psychopath. I'm not sure. But there's no regard for what these actions would have downstream.
No, it's
exactly. No
probably a
regard
bit of
for the
both.
victims' families.
Yep.
Nothing.
None.
It was
Yeah.
purely
Just
for
himself.
and attention.
Oh, it's so sad.
And I'm sure he's right. I'm sure people who did crazier shit.
Well, yeah, because
Got
the
more
people
attention.
who have the more extreme need usually
Right.
get more resources.
Right.
That's
or,
how it's supposed to work.
the personnel working there are studying certain behaviors, so they want to study certain people who exhibit those behaviors.
Well, right.
Like,
and then once you start
everybody has their
lying-
own self-interest.
And once you start lying about fucking unsolved crimes, like,
Yeah.
duh, you're going to get attention. People
Right.
want those crimes solved.
Yeah,
Right.
eventually it has nothing to do with like the symptoms that you're exhibiting. If you start saying I killed
Right.
these
You're gonna
30
get-
people,
You're going to get day trips to be interviewed by police. You're
Yeah.
going to, show us where you buried the bodies, the whole
Yeah.
fucking thing. Yeah.
God, the fact that he got away with this for this long is really sick.
Yeah. Even like preparing for a trial would be something of interest, something to keep him busy.
Yeah.
I mean, his
something different.
motivations, considering that he's obviously a damaged person,
Right.
for lack of a better term, that's understandable. All of these investigators and these people that were
Right.
prompting him to just keep going, I think,
Right.
are culpable as well.
100%. Absolutely.
So in her article, Day details the medication regimen that Bergvall, or Quick, was placed on when he arrived at the institution. He was prescribed a cocktail of benzodiazepines and given luck. And given dose.
I know, I'm like,
and
Say
given
what?
doses.
If I had no other responsibilities
what
and
murder
no
do I have
regard
to
for my
confess
own
to
health,
get some
sure.
benzos?
I don't got to do laundry or run errands.
God.
I'm not
We're
driving.
not advocating for the abuse of prescription medication.
No.
Of course we're not outwardly
Unless you're
doing that.
already committed to an institution and then go ham.
If I were already committed, I don't give a shit.
And given doses every couple of hours, quote, enough to knock some people cold. When Day asked Quick or Bergvall, and I'm going back and forth now because he changed his name back to his original name.
Okay.
So-
I bet he did.
Yeah.
When she asked him about the effects of the medications, he responded, quote, the drugs were very important. I had free access to them and I relied on them to get me into a condition where I could tell stories and make them up. A lot happened inside of me. I'd get high, I'd get a kick, and then I'd have lots of fantasies.
Ew, he was getting off on this shit the whole time.
My imagination would run wild. In one sense, they gave me a lot of creativity. It was like a vicious circle. The more I told, the more attention I got from the therapists and the police and the memory experts. And that meant I also got more drugs.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah. You're just saying what they want to hear to maintain,
Mm-hmm.
And
this-
they're giving
this
him
ride.
whatever
Oh, yeah.
so that
Rewards.
they could hear what
Totally.
they wanted to hear.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's so fucking cyclical.
Ew,
Yep.
this is gross.
And it all makes sense. Everybody is acting in their own self-interest. The cops want to
Absolutely.
have crime solved. The
Yep.
psychiatrists want to have, interesting, crazy patients to work on and help.
He
Yep.
wants his
He
drugs.
wants attention and drugs. It all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is so sad.
So Day also interviewed Bergvall's lawyer, Thomas Olson, who took on the case after Bergvall began recanting his confessions. Olson stated that he did not believe that Bergvall to be dangerous, but stopped short of saying anything overtly positive about him because he's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
I don't like people too much in general, but of course, if you spend so much time with
his lawyer.
his lawyer.
I relate to this deeply.
I get it. But.
Yeah.
But of course, if you spend so much time with a client, you always see the person behind the headlines. It all starts with a little boy under a Christmas tree playing with toys, and it ends up very tragic. Somewhere along the line, everyone is a victim, which I'm sure is true. His family was fucked up too.
Yep. Yeah.
And he grew up in a religious cult and was a closeted, gay person. And everyone is a victim
Yeah.
down the line. A woman named Jenny Kutim, who worked as a research assistant to the first journalist guy, Rostam, was much harsher in her judgment of the situation, stating that, quote, he was a mental patient in a mental hospital. He was the only one who didn't have a job. The other people around him were the ones who were meant to be saying, no, we don't believe you.
Or you have to actually
Or prove it.
Yeah. You don't even have to fucking say you don't believe him. Just before you take 30 separate confession statements as fucking gospel,
Prove it.
go get the tangible evidence to back it up so that you can stop that shit in its tracks and go, okay, this is bullshit. We're not going to harm any more of these families.
Or take it to trial.
Right.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's like training a dog. It's like, oh, do what you want me to do. You get your treat and you get some outside time.
Right.
Get a treat and a walk.
Well, it's very similar to, children who falsely,
Yep.
are led by adults to falsely report.
Or falsely remember.
Crimes. Yeah.
Ugh. Yep. It's so fucking frustrating.
So finishing this woman's quote, in that sense, you cannot blame Sture Bergevall because a lot of the people around him should have said no. At the same time, he's also to blame because he's hurt a lot of people by telling these stories.
Yeah. There's definitely fault in a lot of fucking hands here.
Yeah. After his last conviction was overturned, Quick, or Bergevall, who now reverted back to his birth name, Sture Bergevall, was set free after more than 20 years. So he's out. The only
That doesn't
condition
seem right either.
The only condition, he was put away for armed robbery of a bank.
Yeah. So he can only really serve that sentence, probably plus additional charges for falsifying reports, whatever. But also he was sentenced at a time when there was a statute of limitations on murder. So
right.
Yeah.
What do we expect,
I know.
You're right. That's not right that he only saw that much time for these injustices, but I'm also not surprised by that.
You can't lock someone up for just being a wackadoo.
Right.
Like,
the only condition of his release was that he refrained from alcohol and drugs. In 2013, the journalist Hannes Rostam's book, Thomas Quick, The Making of a Serial Killer, was published.
Did this book roast him?
I think it did.
he roasted himself.
So this was published posthumously because the journalist passed away.
Oh.
At 56 from pancreatic and liver cancer the day after he finished his manuscript. So he literally, this was like his life's work because he broke the story. I mean, he literally was the one person who was like, this doesn't fucking track.
Oh. I mean,
and
at
then
least he got
worked
to
up
see
until the moment he died, basically. And my grandmother died of pancreatic cancer, and that
It's a painful way to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's awful.
My grandma died of that too.
Yeah, it's not.
Twinsies.
It's really fucking bad.
It's terrible.
Well, took her quick anyway.
Yeah.
Quick.
So in 2015, a documentary called The Confessions of Thomas Quick was released. The film includes interviews with Bergevall himself, who repeats the claims he had made to Elizabeth Day that he concocted the stories out of loneliness and a desire for attention.
Wow.
The filmmakers also lay out further details as to how and why Bergevall was able to continue confessing to murders he didn't commit. The film claims that the police fed him details during questioning that he was able to build a convincing enough narrative that it would hold up in court.
And he was rewarded at every turn.
He should just started a podcast, honestly.
Get an Instagram. That's what I'm saying.
Become TikTok famous.
Loneliness and a desire for
doesn't
attention.
look that hard.
It's really hard to become TikTok famous. It's really
Not
fucking
if you pay
hard.
for your phone.
Oh, true.
It also presents evidence of Bergevall being given special treatment at the institution, such as drugs and special therapy sessions on demand.
Yep.
A private office with internet access.
I'm
Are
sorry,
you fucking
what?
kidding?
Because he had to prepare for his trials.
Okay.
Which is his
Was it a
his right.
corner office?
I don't know. And restaurant meals when traveling to visit murder sites. So probably like fucking, fast food or whatever, but he still got to like get out for the day.
I'll take it. Take me to Outback
Right?
Steakhouse, honey.
Yes.
I would lie for Wendy's.
Absolutely.
And a bloomin' onion.
yeah.
I've done more for
Texas
less.
Roadhouse.
I have done
Yum.
more for less.
A lot less.
A lot less.
And a lot more.
And a
a lot
lot
more for a lot less.
It's alarming.
Although it is pretty universally agreed upon at this point that Bergvall's confessions were entirely fabricated, there are some who express doubts and think that he did do some of it.
It's been proven that he hasn't.
So a judge, Judge Reinhold, named
Yes. It all circles back.
Goran Lamberts, who presided over some of the trials. So the judge has a fucking vested interest in being like, no, he is guilty. I wasn't fooled. You know, said, quote, I think Sture Bergvall is fooling us now. That's what I think. I don't think he's harmless. He may be a nice old man. I don't know. But the psychiatrists up there say he's still dangerous. So, like, yeah, you don't want to admit that you were wrong as a judge. I mean, look at the fucking judge in the fucking Rittenhouse trial. He's a fucking...
That's
my
beyond
God.
not wanting to
That
admit you're
judge.
wrong. That's
Jesus Christ.
full on.
blatant psychosis and racism.
Yeah.
Super fun.
So back to this case, he is dangerous considering what he's already done for like a bloomin' onion or whatever. But
What would this man do for a bloomin' onion?
For a Klondike bar.
For some fucking
Exactly.
fish and chips and an outing.
in that respect, he's dangerous, but like as far as him murdering upwards of 30 extra people, which many of which were proven he sure as fuck did not.
There's no hard evidence that he ever murdered anyone.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is my case.
Wow.
Love it.
What a mess. What a pretty mess.
Yep. There you go.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
I really want a bloomin' onion now.
All right. Here we go. So in the true fashion of my Scandinavian ancestors, this case is weird as hell. It's also dark as hell because it's a fan pick.
God.
So
Fans
You
are
thought
way
this
more
episode-
fucked up than we are.
well, yeah. You thought this episode was going to be Swedish Chef, but it's not. So it stars villain in training and then reached masterful peak, Peter Madsen, who is a Danish entrepreneur and engineer. Peter is undeniably clever, and as a kid got into science stuff and chemistry. He was totally like an erector set kid. Like I had a neighbor across the street when I was growing up who's probably listening now, hello Sam, who like loved to take apart the phone when we had like a landline and then put it back together. That was like,
When he was doing crystal meth or
no, just as a child.
He
like,
was
for
the little
funsies.
blonde boy at the beginning of oh my God, how am I blanking on it? The baseball movie when we were little.
Sandlot.
Field of
Sandlot.
Dreams. Sam.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, but
Yep.
you know, Sam had
Yeah,
dark
totally.
hair. But yes. So he especially got into rockets and made his first large model rocket at the age of 15 and launched it over 300 feet in the air.
Wow, good job.
Yeah. As an older teen, he joined the Dansk Amateur Rocket Club, or DARK,
Oh.
where he where he made rockets with his friends.
Oh, rockets. Oh, I thought it
Rockets
was like
Club.
a racket club, like
Rockets
tennis.
Club.
That's racket.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, keep up.
Well, this is spelled.
She said racket.
I did, but that's how it's spelled.
Racket
anyway.
versus racket.
Racket. And while he never attended like an official college, I guess he took some classes and then he was like, fuck this is boring. I'm going to do my own thing. He did learn trades in welding and engineering with a specific interest in building submarines.
First red flag.
Yup. If
Red
you're that
October.
into submarines,
Submarines are fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
maybe you did murder 30 plus people.
I don't think there is anything less natural for a human than a submarine.
I have one, a diving bell.
Yeah.
Diving bells are my biggest fear.
Are those like scary,
You're gonna be in one
scary
and then
tank
get the bends.
hat
It's the
things?
big, heavy tank
yeah.
head, and then it just sinks you to the bottom.
You should play the
of
video
the
game BioShock.
ocean.
You would love it.
No.
I can't even talk about it with without like gasping for air.
Yeah.
Like I have to be like
reminding myself that I'm above sea
Well,
level.
I mean,
Yeah.
it gets worse. So
cool.
he unsurprisingly was a bit off-putting to like his friends, colleagues, and fellow dark rocket-making nerd
at
members.
the racket club.
The Racket Club. Some would joke that he was so polarizing and outspoken that his, quote, name alone would start the fire sprinkler system. One journalist described him as, quote, angry with God and everyone. He has a hard time getting along with other people. He has lofty ambitions and wants to do everything his way.
What a
I mean,
fucking
I get it.
douchebag.
Oh.
Fucking yikes. Wow. Well, we found
Everybody
the one area
says
where
we're
you differ.
twins,
Mhm. We found it. So it should also come as no surprise because of just the topic this week that he is a blonde man.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all blonde men.
Yep. Never trust him.
He also described himself as an inventorpreneur, which I feel like is the blonde man version of girl boss.
Yeah. Inventorpreneur.
I fucking can't. Yuck. Hate it.
How do I make tech bro douchier?
Put it on leggings. Let's go.
Add an EUR.
So dude loved the spotlight, so he ate up the press when in 2008 he built the first private submarine in Danish history called the UC-3 Nautilus.
This guy is basically Elon Musk.
I was gonna say
literally
Jeff
my next
Bezos.
line is because eccentric rich white weirdos have to conquer every corner of the universe, including space and the ocean.
Yeah.
So let's build a rocket for under the water.
Ew.
Yeah.
Was it shaped
And
like a
also,
dick? Probably.
Like, why
pictures on the
does
drive of
this? Why is this like? First of all, submarine technology, fucking rocket launching technology, whatever. Like all of that already exists. Like, why are these men given such like special attention and resources and whatever? Like, shouldn't we be focusing on like entrenched social problems, public health, things that like would actually help society, and not just like I made this thing go fast.
There's a
I
reason
can't.
why, like, reinventing the wheel
Yeah.
is a euphemism for being completely redundant and stupid.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
you
so many
can't-
like tech bros who are like, oh, we invented like mass transport that, you know, drops people at different stops and lines. It's like, that's a fucking bus.
Well,
Yeah.
it's colonist and capitalist mindset at the core of
it.
all of it. That's
Hate
what
it.
it is. It's fucking white supremacy.
I hate
So he launched his fucking submarine into the water in Copenhagen. The submarine took 3 years to build. It cost 220,000 American dollars, which like,
I don't know if that's like the going rate for a submarine or
and
if
this was
that's
the early
a
aughts.
lot.
So like, I don't know. I really don't. I've
Going
never built
rate.
a submarine, so
Feels like a shoddy submarine, if I'm being
no,
honest.
it was actually like really fucking
Like
great.
that's a
and
cost saving measure.
I think it
Oh,
was
that's
so,
very cheap.
I think
feel
it was
like it's
super cheap because a lot of it was volunteer based. He's got like friends who worked for like NASA.
Okay.
It was like a big volunteer effort. So I think that's mostly materials, to be honest.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that
that's
seems
like
cheap.
crazy
It's super cheap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I'm seeing prices between like the lowest I'm seeing is like 2.9 billion.
Are you
Yeah.
Googling prices for submarines right
I
now?
googled going rate for submarine.
Well, okay, but this is also a small and recreational submarine. I don't know what kind of submarine you're looking at.
Going rate for recreational submarine.
Which
Okay,
I
let's
don't even
keep
know if
going.
those are
1
available.
million.
But, well, yeah.
Still.
So either way, this was not expensive. It was like a hobby, like a project among other
It was
nerds.
a potato gun that
Yes.
you could sit in underwater.
My dad
Basically.
made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I
Okay.
mean, not it's not a not incredible feat. I mean, a bunch of dudes who just like knew fucking engineering
Yeah.
and tech
He like
got together and were like,
crowdsourced.
let's make a small submarine. This would be cool. And then they fucking did it. Like, I don't begrudge that accomplishment, but also like, why?
I think I just don't like it because I know how this turns out.
Yeah,
I already don't like it.
Exactly.
Right. If he was like a nice dude,
it wouldn't be a problem. So after many tweaks and returns to the drawing board, the vessel was successfully launched in October of 2008 to much excitement and acclaim. So this is from Wikipedia, quote, Nautilus could be crewed by up to 8 people for surface operation and 4 when diving. The submarine moved at 5 to 6 knots. I don't care or know how fast that is.
Not super fast.
It's not that fast.
Great. Depending
Very
on
slow,
conditions and whether it was submerged, the submarine could be operated by a single person from the control room. So, like, it still had to be crewed by up to 4 people, but you could, like, steer it and, like, control all the electrical from
It wasn't
by
a
one
drone
person from one
marine.
room. Yes. All controls and indicators were accessible from the captain's seat for controlling buoyancy, pumps, engines, air pressure, communication, video, and other electric systems. By 2017, the submarine had been referred to as a 59-foot art project because of its odd uses. It was used primarily for recreation, but also as inspiration for like video game development. Like there was this one post-apocalyptic video game, I guess, that used it for some of its like underwater world building. I don't know.
Okay.
It was used, blah, blah, blah. And one time, Peter commissioned a rocket to be launched off of the front of it, because why the fuck not? And there are photos on the drive. He's combining his 2 loves. He had this rocket built, literally like stuck a launch pad on the front of a submarine, didn't submerge the submarine, but drove it out into the Baltic and launched a rocket off of it.
I feel like you could launch a rocket off of a floating dock.
You can.
It doesn't
literally
fucking matter.
But that's not as cool as off of the front
Off
of your
a
own
submarine that is not submerged.
Not as cool.
So
Exactly.
just a floating dildo.
Yep. So this oddball submarine was the perfect media fodder, and Kim Wall, a Swedish freelance journalist, had been itching for an interview with Peter. Kim was a brilliant writer and journalist with a bachelor's in international relations from the London School of Economics and a double master's in journalism and international relations from Columbia University in good ol' NYC.
So basically, the smartest person you
In
could
the-
ever
in the room
conceive
always.
of.
Yep.
Yeah. Just like the most prestigious
The most smartest.
ever. Yeah.
She wrote pieces for a bunch of publications that we know quite well, including The Guardian, The New York Times, Vice, Slate, and Time Magazine. And while she knew how to tell a great story, she also had an eye for what stories needed to be told and was awarded for this with her piece on climate change and nuclear weapons testing in the Marshall Islands. So basically, she was a brilliant badass and super fucking talented, and also like just seemed like a wonderful person.
Okay.
So she reaches out to Peter for an interview. She had asked for this interview months prior and hadn't heard back. So when she finally got a response in August of 2017, she jumped on it, regardless of the fact that she was in the middle of prepping for her own farewell party because she and her partner were moving to Beijing that month, like days
God.
later.
That is so heartbreaking.
So she's busy as hell and is like, I can give you 2 hours. And he's like, hell yes, come take a ride with me on my submarine. And Kim agrees and boards the submarine. Because this is why she's doing the story.
And she's
like,
a
you built your
journalist.
own submarine. Yeah.
It all makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
Like, who wouldn't have done the same? Everyone
Listen.
would have done the same.
Any fucker on the street could be like, hey, girl, you want to check out my submarine? And I'd be like, wait, like a real submarine? He'd be like, yeah, I built a submarine. And I'd be like, dope. Where do we meet? Like, it's not
I don't
hard
think
to kill
I'd
me.
like it, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
we are
as
not
a
the same.
journalist,
I need to see it.
She's supposed to go.
Yeah.
You know?
And
She's
I don't
a
even have the
journalist.
I don't even have the excuse of I reached out to you with the explicit purpose of talking to you
yeah,
about
she
your
reached out
submarine
to him about it.
to do a story.
Right. And it's
So-
Denmark. You think that, like, it all seemed safe.
Yeah, exactly. So she agrees and boards the submarine on the afternoon of August 10th, 2017. She was never seen again, and the submarine never returned to the harbor. It was spotted a few miles out by a lighthouse the next morning, and a search crew pulled Peter from the vessel, but no Kim. Kim's partner had reported her missing the night before when she didn't return home from the interview. 11 days later, a torso was found washed up on a beach by a passing cyclist
Oh,
that was
God.
identified as Kim's.
God.
Just a torso.
Just a torso.
Arms, no head.
Just a torso.
Okay.
Divers would spend months searching for the rest of her remains, which were found scattered in the Baltic between Denmark and Sweden. Both some were washed ashore and some were out in the water in weighted bags.
Jesus.
This is from a Danish publication that I translated to English using Google, so bear with me. The body parts from the Swedish journalist Kim Wall have been found about 1,000 meters south of the places where Swedish specially trained dead dogs,
Cadaver dogs.
like cadaver
Dead
dogs,
dogs.
have made a number of markings during the recent investigation of the murder case. The head of, well, they did find the head, but that's not what the sentence is. The head of homicide at the Copenhagen police, Jens Møller Jensen, who is the most Copenhagen thing ever.
Jens Jensen.
Said this at a press conference earlier today, where it emerged that divers from the Navy's mining service have found both Kim Wall's head and both legs, as well as her clothes. The Swedish police dogs are trained to be able to sniff across water for clues, which is pretty fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
On 3 occasions, they have been part of the investigation into the murder of Kim Wall, and each time they have made several selections. So, like, she was dismembered.
Mm-hmm.
Jens Møller Jensen said that it is only later in the search for the body parts from the Swedish journalist that the dogs have helped. So, like, they already established kind of what area they were in, and that's when the dogs are the most useful. There was no one who had a belief that scent traces from the corpses could drift that far, he explained. Divers found a bag with Kim Wall's shirt, skirt, socks, shoes, and a knife yesterday morning. There were also some lead weights in the bag to hold it down. Around noon, divers made a new find where they found 2 legs, and shortly after, Kim Wall's head was found in a bag weighed down by several pieces of metal.
It's amazing that these divers were able to find so much.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
incredible.
because when you
It
think
happened
about
so quickly.
it happened so quickly. When he was pulled out of the submarine the next morning, he was like immediately apprehended by police. So this was only as far as he could have scattered the remains, going only up to 6 knots in a bay of the Baltic, which, like, that stretch of water between Denmark and Sweden is not very big. So, like, yes, it's amazing that they could find it all, but also it wasn't in a super wide area.
Narrow.
Yeah. And there wasn't like a crazy current
Atlantic.
going through there. Yeah, exactly. So forensic investigation of the submarine did not find any alarming evidence, no blood or signs of a struggle. But he had all night to wash up, and then as he was being rescued, he intentionally sunk the vessel with the hatch wide open to destroy evidence. So, like, it isn't surprising that they didn't find anything on the submarine, because when they got the submarine out of the fucking Baltic, it was completely full
of water.
Like, everything is washed away. However, Kim's dismembered remains clearly told a different story. She had been bound and stabbed multiple times, mostly around the genital area. Her lungs indicated that her cause of death was either strangulation or mechanical asphyxiation, which is the medical term for having, like, your throat slit. No.
Oh.
She had either been strangled or had her throat slit.
Oh.
They're like, that's what they could get from the lungs. But since she'd been decapitated, there's no way to actually be able to assess whether strangulation was the cause of death or...
Right.
Yeah. So fucked up. So, like I said, since her head was removed from her body, and this was impossible to determine from the remains, and Peter, still to this day, has not divulged the exact details of how he killed Kim. Peter's DNA was not found on the body or any of the body parts.
It was underwater.
But again, that is uncommon considering she was in the water for various lengths of time. There was also semen collected from Peter's undergarments, which were turned over to police upon his arrest. So he was arrested, like, as soon as he was, quote unquote, rescued from the vessel, because Kim had been reported missing by her partner. And her partner was like, she met up with that fucking weirdo,
in
Peter What's-His-Face, in a submarine.
And there was only one other person on the submarine with her.
And I haven't fucking seen them since. So from BBC News, quote, the prosecution painted a picture of a man who enjoyed watching videos. Okay, sorry, I'm catching myself right now, realizing I said earlier that the submarine had to be crewed by 4 people. That's not true. He could operate it himself, clearly. So I misunderstood that part, and I'm just clarifying.
But maybe to be, like, properly.
Right.
cruise.
For like a 2-hour cruise.
jaunt.
And I don't think they were planning to submerge necessarily. So,
Yeah. Okay.
So from BBC News, quote, the prosecution painted a picture of a man who enjoyed watching videos of women being killed or tortured, which were found on his workshop computer. So he had like not cleared his porn history at all. And he had been watching this shit, like this escalating shit for fucking months.
By the way, even if you do clear it, they can still find that shit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But this guy did not fucking clear his search history. He's me. Judge Reinhold. Peter Madsen had watched a beheading video shortly before he had taken Kim Wall out in the submarine, they said. It had been found by police on a backup profile of his iPhone. So, like, he, I guess, tried to kind of cover it up, but failed. During the trial, prosecutor Jacob Buch-Jepsen said it was unclear how Kim Wall had died, but it was clearly intentional and with a sexual motive. Madsen had already asked other women to join him on the sub that week, but no one else had come, thank God.
Ew.
Imagine how creepy you have to be.
To be asking multiple women onto your submarine?
And they all say no.
They all said no except the journalist.
Imagine
But
if
she
you were
asked
like,
him.
I know.
well, yeah,
she wants
she's
to
a
write a story about
journalist.
it. Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like,
I'm
you
saying,
know,
but all week
wasn't
long
a
he
date.
was like, hey, baby, want to come on my submarine? No, you're a fucking
Well,
creep. And then this woman comes like, hey, can I see your submarine? He's like, yes.
Here's what freaks me out so
Gross.
much about this, though. So she reached out to him a while ago, and he didn't respond
because he didn't want
And
the
now
press.
in like the couple weeks leading up to this, he's
was
desperately
like-
trying to get other women to come on the sub.
Yeah,
And he's like
absolutely.
watching all this crazy fucking porn and these beheading videos.
Yep.
I think he got it in his head way before she.
Oh, it's premeditated.
Oh,
Yeah.
1,000%. And that he was going to try out tactics on these other women before.
Or she just, he was throwing, whatever at the wall to see what stuck.
I don't think so, though, because
was
she
the
reached
first
out
one
to him and
come out.
he didn't respond for a while.
But he responded when he was horny and had a plan.
Well, sure, but I think that he was calculating wanting to kill her specifically. This is my theory, and that he didn't respond until things started to escalate, and then he was like, "Oh, I want to practice first." And so I don't know. I just feel like
I think we agree, except for the word practice.
yeah, I think he
Yeah.
wanted to fucking practice his tactics on these ladies. Is
Yeah.
my
He
theory.
just
But
wanted
anyway,
to kill some ladies.
the women he invited on the sub were obviously super fucking creeped out by him. He had written blog posts about stabbing and mutilating women. Like his live journal was like,
In his own name?
I guess,
Ew.
or at
Come
least
on,
a very
dude.
thinly veiled screen name.
Dear
God.
God.
It was really easy to link it to him. So one of the women that he invited onto the sub was invited only 2 days before Kim.
Ew.
And this is from a publication called The Week. Quote, the witness
Love
whose
the week.
I love The Week. Actually, an
It's so
ex-boyfriend's
good.
dad got me a subscription to The Week as a gift once, and it was a really good
Lucky.
gift.
I
It's
think
good.
I need to
It's got a lot of
resubscribe.
stuff. Yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff.
It's good for millennial brains. It's just a lot of little snippets.
It's basically
Yes.
Twitter, but like printed out.
I love
And
it.
what's nice about this is that it was snippets, but like all pertaining to this case in like a timeline. It was
Yeah.
really nice. I really liked it. It's very digestible. Thank you, The Week.
Love the week.
So, quote, the witness, this is the one who was invited 2 days before Kim was murdered. The witness, whose identity was not revealed, told the court that she declined, but that he contacted her again online to repeat the invitation 2 days before he allegedly murdered Wall. So, like, he'd reached out to her before. She said no.
You reached out again.
And then he reached out again and was like, hey,
What
wait,
a
but come on my sub.
what a freak.
Yeah.
I'm on my sub.
She goes, quote, I thought it was a little odd that he wrote to me. She said, if it had been my submarine, I would not have invited me when I didn't answer the first time.
God.
I love her so much.
Just just because it's
Had
a
it been
submarine.
my submarine.
If it had been my submarine.
If somebody says no to the first invite and
Yeah.
they don't follow up,
That doesn't
maybe-
mean go to a different platform and invite them
Yeah.
again. Like, that's
Right.
not how it works. That's how you get blocked, baby.
I
That's
would
how you get
not
blocked.
have invited me when I didn't answer
So
the first time
time.
on my submarine.
I love her. I love her so much. It also came out in court that Peter texted his ex-wife about 20 minutes after murdering Kim, and the text read, quote, "I'm on a little adventure with the Nautilus, his submarine, and doing well, sailing in the moonlight, not diving, hugs to the cats."
That's what he fucking texted his ex-wife after brutally murdering this woman, this stranger.
Hugs to the cats. I
Yup.
can never say that again.
Ever. He's sick. He's fucking sick. So Peter had originally been charged with negligent manslaughter, but between his changing stories and absolutely zero evidence to back up his claims of accidental death,
Yeah,
His-
super not accidental, bruh.
well,
You
okay.
stabbed her a bunch, beheaded her, and then stripped her, and then
Cut her up.
cut her
So-
up, and then sent the bags, waited. Like,
Yes,
no,
yes,
it was not an
yes,
accidental
yes.
death.
No.
You're in a submarine.
I
and
know,
You're in the
but
ocean.
hold
And you
on.
could have made it look like an accidental death.
Okay.
But you didn't.
Hold on. Jesus fucking Christ.
The painkillers are setting in.
Clearly wearing off.
I'm mad.
So he said when he was first apprehended, he changed his story 3 times. First, he said that he had dropped her off on shore and he hadn't seen her again.
Mhm.
Then all this evidence was stacking up against him and they were like, hey, buddy,
Yeah.
no, we know that's not the case. And then he was like, okay, I'll tell you what really happened. We were on the boat or on the sub. We were like, gonna go up to the, through the hatch and take a look out on the water.
I'm the king of the world.
But the hatch fell on her and hit her in the head and killed her. And I freaked out. I tried for like hours to lift her up out of the boat or out of the sub myself. I couldn't do it. So I decided that the only way to like save face was to cut her up and get rid of her and hope that I could
You're
make it
not
seem
that
like it never
far
happened.
Okay,
From
Robert
show.
Durst.
Exactly.
Okay, Robert
You're
Durst.
not
Yes.
that far from shore.
Then-
You had phone signal.
Oh, yeah. Then her head was found, and the forensic examiners were like, LOL, no blunt force trauma to the head. So that story doesn't add up.
And, also
then
she
he was like-
stabbed a bunch in her
Right.
genitals.
Right. And then he was like, well, she actually died of like toxic fumes, like CO2. Like I had gone up to the top to check the conditions for us to take a look out or whatever. And when I went to open the hatch again, there was like a hot wind that came up out of there. And I realized there was
I'm
a
sure
CO2
there was
leak.
a
And
hot wind.
yeah,
Somebody's
and they were
blowing a lot of smoke.
exactly. But basically, there's no forensic evidence to have supported fucking any of this
No.
at all, obviously. So
You
his
had
charges.
a whole day to think up a fucking plausible story.
Well, yeah, he had a whole night, but he's in the middle of because he was picked up at like 10:30 in the morning. And he had
He didn't care
killed
about
her
getting away
around
with it.
like
He wanted
11:30 at
to
night.
kill her. He wanted to cut her up.
Yeah.
That was his jollies.
Yeah, and I think
didn't
he just
care
thought
what
like
what his alibi was going to be.
no, he's probably like I'm rich and white. I'm gonna durst this and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And it did not work for him. So his charges were upgraded to murder, and he was found guilty in January of 2018. And he also faced charges and was found guilty for indecent handling of a corpse and sexual assault. So the prosecution's assertion that he had tortured Kim before killing her was never confirmed, but I certainly believe that he did. He was sentenced to
Being
life.
in a submarine alone is
I mean,
torture.
It's already with this man.
You
it's
could
already
argue that-
torture.
Correct. Even though I totally would have wanted to check out the submarine, but yes.
Well,
So he was sentenced to life in prison in Copenhagen, which we'll get to that. So this wouldn't be a real wine and crime episode without this motherfucker finding his way back into the news. So in October of 2020, Peter took a female psychologist, like a prison psychologist, hostage in an escape attempt.
what the fuck?
Yeah. According to NBC News, he used objects resembling a gun. So maybe he like whittled something or like crafted something, and an explosive bomb belt to threaten not only the life of the doctor that he'd taken hostage, but the lives of other people, prisoners and guards in the prison if he wasn't allowed to escape.
I have a
So we-
question.
Yes.
So, use an object resembling a gun and resembling an explosive bomb belt or an
Correct.
actual explosive
No.
bomb belt?
Resembling both.
Resembling.
Okay.
He fashioned himself a little costume and little
Correct.
props.
Correct.
And people didn't want to
Correct.
take a chance.
In October of 2020, he was Halloween in it.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was my costume.
It was
is
the
that for
only
me
one Halloween in it.
or
in
my bomb
2020.
belt? So he
my
did make it
God.
through the doors, and the doctor was unharmed. No, like nobody got hurt, thank God. But he was captured about a mile from the prison within 5 minutes of the guards calling in his escape to local authorities.
Thank
What a fucking
goodness.
idiot. What's even dumber about this is that life sentences in Denmark usually mean 16 years in prison, and convicts are reassessed to determine whether they would pose a danger to society if released, and this determines if they will be kept longer or not.
So it's like
So-
parole.
Yeah, so he could have just waited. Like, if you get a 16-year
16
sentence,
years is not that long when
It's
you
not that long.
murdered someone brutally in a premeditated fashion.
it's not. However, I do kind of support like shorter initial sentences with the like facing a panel basically of assessment.
Like a
Just because,
reanalysis.
I have a lot of problems with our justice system. This doesn't bother me that much because most of the time, if you get a life sentence, that just means you're going before a board in 16 years and they're going, yeah, you're still a danger to society. We're not
mandatory minimums are a
release
big
you.
issue.
Yeah. So I
here.
don't have a problem with this, but it's like he's just so fucking stupid because if he had waited out his 16 years as like a model prisoner,
Right,
he had
he
at least
would've had
a
a
chance.
But this is fucking so crazy. that,
There's
like,
no way. Now he's a huge risk. Like there's no fucking way. They're not gonna.
You
They're not
tried
gonna
to
clear him.
kidnap Clarice.
Literally, hello, Clarice, and then like ran off and got caught within a mile. You fucking loser piece of shit.
I hate this man.
He's
hot take.
terrible.
I know everybody else
blonde.
is saying how great he is.
no,
No, but like I
he's
honestly
so terrible.
God.
Yeah, he's scum of the fucking like sub scum. The scum
Submarine scum.
Submarine scum. He's the scum under the fingernails of the scum that's
And
under the
it's
submarine.
it's just so fucking tragic and senseless. Like she was this young person, brilliant,
Yep.
everything going for her, people who loved
she
her.
just had a
career,
story she wanted to write.
Yeah, and it's
and
one of
she
those
was
fucked up
doing her
things.
job. And
The other reason, even if he hadn't escaped, the other reason that I feel like they may have never, or at least certainly not after the first 16 years, approved his release, is because it's like, this was this weird sort of fantasy and fetish that he had built up in his head. Like, he doesn't have an existing relationship with this woman. She's just was someone who presented herself because of her
it
job.
was both premeditated and opportunistic.
And just easy yeah, it was like easy picking.
It was
So it's
both.
like she reaches out and then he's like, oh,
Yeah.
Huh?
This is a woman who will actually come on my sub.
right. Yeah. So I
Gotta
don't
quit
know.
saying
It's just,
come on my sub.
come on my
It's
son.
so gross. We've said it a bunch.
Rub it up dub,
She'll-
come on my son.
She'll come on your sub, but she is not gonna come on your sub.
Absolutely
Ew.
fucking
I don't care what your
not.
fantasy is, but it's not happening.
Come
So-
on my sub like rub of a dub.
Ick. Blonde Peter, you're a piece of shit. I hope you fucking rot in hell. And
Yeah.
every breath you take is painful and you have an itch you can't scratch, like deep on the lower or the middle of your back that you can like never get.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, like,
Your shoulder blade.
yeah, and that your funny bone like
Yeah.
is always tingling and you can never get relief and you have heartburn until the day that you die. These are the things I wish for you.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
And it burns when
Having
you
experienced all of those things. Oh, and that it burns when you pee. I've experienced
and you can't
that too.
taste or smell anything.
And I've experienced that too. So they're all bad. I want all of these things to happen to
and many
this
more.
fucker. And many more.
And you
Anyway,
have to do
thanks,
jazz
fan
hands
picker.
100% of the time.
Every
Oh,
time you fart, you have to do
exhausting.
jazz hands while screaming.
God. So, thank you to our fan picker, Lena Gerding Uwe.
Nailed
Gerting Eva?
Lena Gerding ute.
And Tusen Takk, Lena.
Oh, I don't
And-
speak Lena.
I don't speak Lena. And thank you for this. There's a lot happening in the Scandinavian
world.
countries.
There's a lot more than I anticipated. So
Lot
thank
going
you
on.
for opening our eyes.
And we'll talk
Horrible.
to you next week.
See you next
All
week.
right. Bye-bye.